We're really thrilled today to be in conversation with Sasha Ali, who's a great friend of all of ours and was a longtime colleague. So one of our upcoming exhibitions is titled Making Time, and it's an exhibition that's a selection of the LA-based artists who have had solo shows at the museum over the last 10 years. And we wanted to use the exhibition as an opportunity to reflect on the artist work, as well as their contributions to the museum's development over the last decade. The past 10 years, there's been a lot of change at the museum, kind of seeing the museum evolve under the leadership of our current executive director, Suzanne Iskin. Over these last 10 years, the museum has generated more recognition for itself. The staff has expanded in a number of ways. And with those changes, they sort of culminated with the name change of the museum a couple of years ago from Craft and Folk Art Museum to Craft Contemporary. And throughout that time, those sort of specific changes at Craft Contemporary also have kind of paralleled a sort of larger recognition and sort of renewed interest in craft in general, sort of with things like the DIY and sort of making movement, as well as sort of craft becoming a larger part of discussions within the overall art world. And so with that exhibition, we thought a really nice way to kind of start our conversations around it and introducing it was to be in conversation with Sasha. Sasha was the manager of exhibitions and communications at the museum from November 2010 until January of 2019. And so she was there for a little over 8 years. And Sasha was, I mean, a huge part of all of the exhibitions that we're going to be referring to in Making Time, as well as all of the numerous other shows that were staged during her time there. And she was also involved in the discussions about the name change for the museum as well. So we thought that her insights could really lay like a nice foundation from which we'll continue to build programming surrounding this show. The show, as you know, the museum is still closed, but we are sort of slowly in the process of getting the galleries installed, and, you know, fingers crossed, hopefully we'll be able to open these shows to the public, at least in some capacity, relatively soon. So with that, I thought maybe before we would start our conversations with Sasha, is I could just show a sample of the artist and the past shows that they were involved with at the museum. And again, all of these artists, LA-based solo shows, and they'll be a part of the upcoming Making Time exhibition. So let me go ahead. I'm just going to get my screen kind of switched over. So the first or the earliest exhibition in Making Time will be work by Tanya Aguiniga, an exhibition that she did back in 2011 called Crossing the Line. Also included is Uzumaki Cepeda. She did a front window installation called Daydreaming back in 2018. Beatrice Cortez, an exhibition called Trinidad Joy Station that Beatrice did in 2019. Keiko Fukuzawa, her exhibition Made in China was back in 2016. Catherine Gray, a local glass artist, and her exhibition As Clear as the Experience was staged in 2018. Gronk's Theater of Paint, an exhibition exploring particularly Gronk's work in theaters design was staged in 2016 as well. Shireen Gerges, an exhibition of Thorns and Love, exploring the history of Egyptian feminist icon and writer Doya Shafiq, was staged in 2018. Betty Saar's Keeping It Clean, an exhibition of her washboards, was staged in 2017. Timothy Washington, his exhibition Love Thy Neighbor, was staged in 2014. And then finally, Ann Weber, an exhibition called Love and Other Audacities, which was staged in 2011. So these 10 artists will have a selection of other works that will be presented in Making Time that will be able to explore their contributions to the museum, also have programs and other opportunities to discuss with the artists what they've been doing since their solo exhibitions and what they foresee themselves sort of moving forward with in their careers as well. So that gives you just a little bit of the framework in which the exhibition has developed. And also, again, Sasha was a really integral part of the development of all of these exhibitions. After her time at Craft Contemporary, she has been working now at Metro for a number of years and is currently a senior art program specialist there. So with that, again, Sasha, thank you so much for joining us today. And maybe if you could start by just sharing a little bit about what your position was at the museum in your involvement within exhibition development. There's so many people that are involved with exhibitions that often, you know, their names aren't kind of out there and shared publicly. So if you'd like to just give everybody a sense of the work that you did.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's nice to be back in the fold for this program. So yes, so I was manager of exhibitions and communications, and you know, for a small institution, I mean, those are completely different roles. Usually at a larger institution, like you have 2 people who have those roles, or actually like 5 people. You know, I was responsible for publicity for the museum, helping to shape messaging, outward messaging. I also was involved with, or rather led exhibition production. And so that really involved like just getting together all the details and the timelines and the crew who would be working on exhibitions, and just leading the everything from start to finish. And that also involved registrarial duties, which is basically like, you know, doing shipping, the pickup and return of artworks, charting the condition of artworks when they come into the museum and when they leave the museum, insurance. There's so many moving parts when it comes to exhibition production, and then obviously like working with the curators to help develop ideas, to help develop like scope of an exhibition. So and aside from all that, I was also facilities manager, which meant if the toilet was not working, I was responsible for getting it to work again. Or if there was water on the rooftop, you know, had to like sweep it off. So, but that's part of like the fun of working at a small institution where, you know, everybody is basically responsible for everything in a way. You know, like we all kind of dipped our hands into each other's pots quite a bit, and there was just a lot of cross collaboration, which is what made just working with this team so amazing and family like.
Sasha actually went through some photos that she had, and we kind of put together some of these images that show some aspects of what Sasha was just describing. Maybe you want me, I can kind of show those, and maybe you could talk a little bit about kind of what's being represented. And with that, maybe if there are any particular like special memories of working with some of these artists or the installation of their shows.
Yeah. So do we want to do it with image or?
Yeah, why don't I go ahead? I can go ahead and I will get do another screen share. We'll see if I can do this one a little bit better than the last one that I did. All right.
So,
Cool.
so we thought it might be interesting for folks to see just kind of the behind the scenes look, as far as what it looks like when we're putting something together. So this is just a quick behind the scenes look of me and Executive Director Suzanne Iskin. We're just going over exhibition design during this exhibition that was called Scratching the Surface, featuring artists who worked with wood and kind of really worked with the grain of the wood for their sculptural pieces. I believe this is like the first installation that I was part of. I believe this was concurrent with the Ackerman exhibition, I think, right, Holly?
Yeah, this was Tanya's Crossing the Line installation.
So this is Tanya Aguinaga's Crossing the Line exhibition. This is the first exhibition that I started working on in January of 2011. And I gotta say, I mean, like, it was trial by fire. I had experience work kind of doing some installation work in gallery settings, but it was just kind of it's a whole different beast when it's in a museum. And then we also had a very difficult show that was happening in another part of the museum that, you know, just required there was just a lot of like attention to detail, and just there was a lot of managing of relationships that was happening at that time. But for Tanya's exhibition, it was really amazing because you know, the museum typically does rely on volunteers and interns to help out with the exhibition installations. But in this case, there was like a much bigger volunteer effort involved, because it was a very involved process to turn the gallery space into this, just entirely into an experiential installation. So there was just, you know, there was a lot of community outreach that happened at this time to get a lot of volunteers in to help get this exhibition done on time.
Yeah, I think it was, and I think Tanya was teaching at the time, and some of her students also were involved, from what I remember.
Right.
There we go.
So this is just, you know, this is just a photograph of me. I think I'm deinstalling here. So sometimes you're not sure if it's like, are we installing or deinstalling? But I'm pretty sure this is a deinstallation of Keiko Fukazawa's Made in China exhibition. This was the front window display, and I was taking these delicate porcelain flower pieces out of the outstretched hands of Mao Zedong.
Yeah, we have some additional shots of that.
Yeah. So, and this was part of my role as well. You know, it wasn't just directing others in what they do. Like, you know, both Holly and I were actively involved in the installations as well, in the unpacking, in the actual mounting of works, in problem solving. With exhibition installations, you know, you can plan things as much as possible, but unforeseen things always come up. And something that I really learned in 8 years of being at the museum, you know, I don't feel like I was very well versed in that kind of problem solving when I first got to the museum. But by the end, it's just, I feel like I've just come out of that experience, being able to, you know, like, you just kind of like end up being a little problem oriented so that you can try to come up with solutions. And I think that's something that just kind of has carried into my life overall, just trying to become like, you know, like really like creative problem solving. And it's just, you know, it was really interesting and amazing that we were able to get through all these installations, you know, even if we stayed till 3 a.m. the night before an opening, but it's really, it really is a lot of work to get an exhibition up.
This is just as actually done. I probably at 3 a.m. with Keiko's exhibition install and the prep crew.
Yeah, this is likely a very late, you know, we finished, oh my gosh, yay. This is, you know, some of the preparators that we worked with, and an intern who was working with us as well. And it's just, honestly, like, I feel like I just feel like preparators do not get like the credit that they deserve. They don't get, I don't know, like we couldn't do anything without preparators. They are the backbone of getting these installations done. They come with like such amazing specialized skills. They all come with like a unique lens. A lot of them are artists themselves. And so they just already have like, they know how to work with material. They know how to work with, they know how to work with just with different like mounting techniques. They're able to advise us. We rely on them to like advise us on how can we solve this problem? How are we going to get this gigantic sculpture up to the 3rd floor when we don't have a freight elevator? Things like that. So there was a lot of just really amazing relationships that were built just amongst the preparator crew. Even I'm still in touch with all these preparators. Like I'm friends with all of them. I can reach out to them, and it's just it's really amazing because we've had preparators who've also because in establishing a relationship with the museum, they also end up maybe doing a program. I believe Dulce, one of the preps, has done a program at the museum too. And it's just really I just bow down to the preparators, because they're just absolutely incredible, and just what fascinating and incredible people to work with.
Yeah, I think what you were talking about earlier about problem solving, just the when everybody kind of can come together and really problem solve together, and the things, I agree. And just how much I know I personally have learned from working with all of them, and like you said, the experience that they bring within them, and just the creativity that's really involved in figuring out how to install artworks and handle them safely.
So another really incredible part of exhibition planning and of curatorial development is the studio visits with artists. And, it was always a favorite portion of trying to get insight into an artist that we're curious about, that we are possibly interested in working with, and just to get into their space and talk to them about their process. And this was one of our visits with Gronk at his studio in downtown. He's been there for decades. He's like a downtown dinosaur, Gronk is. I mean, he's been there so long. It's amazing. And doing the studio visit with him, this is how we were able to then really get an idea of what kind of, again, an immersive installation he was going to make at the museum, which is what he did. He ultimately, for his solo presentation at the museum, the entire museum ultimately looked, it was not the entire museum, I'm sorry, the 3rd floor gallery, but it essentially just was transformed. It didn't look like a gallery. It looked entirely like just something of Gronk's creation.
I think we have some install shots.
Yeah, this is some behind the scenes of Gronk working on his installation, and taking a moment to just kind of sit back, take it in. What's next? Everything he was doing with this installation was site specific. So even though he had a plan, he painted the walls, everything in that gallery was basically an original Gronk artwork. The paintings, just he did a whole paint job in the gallery essentially, and it was like a Gronk original, the entire space, which was incredible.
I think an earlier stage of how he sort of builds up his paintings. Oh yeah, and then we laid a floor as well in part of it. Yes.
Gronk's artwork had been turned into vinyl flooring by a company, and they graciously donated some to us for the exhibition, and we were able to create even more of an immersive experience. Like, when Gronk's work is like, it's beneath your feet, it's above you, it's like all around you, or you're just encompassed. And it was really, really exciting, and it was really fun to be in there. It was also really cool because he called this exhibition Theater of Paint, a play on theater of pain. So there was a stage in the gallery space as well, which he had painted, and again, the stage itself ended up being an artwork, but the stage was utilized for performances that happened throughout the exhibition. People came in and did maybe like dance rehearsals in the space. We had a kind of concert series in the summer that happened inside the space as well, and had local musicians do some really amazing shows. It was just like, the space was just like ripe for interactivity, which the museum really puts a lot of importance on that element of exhibitions as well. Like each exhibition that we did, we always had to think about and always developed like an interactive element, so that people who were coming in were not just being passive spectators, but were able to just to be involved in some way with the space. And Gronk's exhibition, especially, like it was entirely interactive. Like he had made masks for people to play with and to just kind of imagine themselves in the space.
I think when we deinstalled, we gave Gronk this flooring, and I think actually some of it might be in his bathroom actually at home now. So it's lived a life beyond the show.
He should live with his art. This is, I sent this to Holly this morning because this is during the installation for Uzumaki Cepeda's site-specific installation in the first floor of the museum, which happened in 2018. And this is what happens. You're in an installation, everything is this is Holly taking a break in the middle of this installation. We're probably trying to figure something out. We've probably been working really hard on trying to get this exhibition up, and this is just a moment of respite.
Yeah, that probably everyone also is hopefully taking a break. All the preparators and you and everybody else working on the show. Plus, Sasha, you were also, as communications manager, you were even like posting to social media and stuff too, kind of throughout.
I was definitely working with the social media strategists, like just as people as intimately involved in the installation as I was, like there was just a lot of opportunities to get some interesting captures, whether it's video or photo. And this is just kind of showing you like kind of the scale of Uzumaki's installation, just like how high up we were going to get some of these elements in place. This is again, our brilliant preparators. We've got Christine and Joseph here. They were coming up with like a creative way to paint the walls, like instead of like one person just working on one wall. I think they were just like coming up with, oh no, actually what's happening here, they're drying the drywall. Oh, that's so funny. They have hair dryers in their hands and they're drying the drywall because again, just clever solutions of like just how to get things done as efficiently as possible. So yeah. we had these niches in the third floor gallery that sometimes we would close up in order to create more wall space. And so this is that magic in action. This is Joe Brooks, also like someone who worked with us so much. Like, oh my God, I don't know where we would have been without Joe's expertise in everything, in like electrical, in like in carpentry, in like just God, so much stuff. I feel like Joe was kind of the architect of a lot of the installations that we've had at the museum the last 10 years. Like just he has just like, he's so talented, just like an amazing mind, could really like just make things happen. I would say he was like magician in chief among the crew, but among like many magicians. But yeah, just I really appreciate him. As long as I knew Joe was going to be around to help a little bit, like I felt like, okay, we'll be fine. We'll be okay.
And this is also funny. You made this for it. It's an Instagram post, right?
Yeah, I posted this on
story.
Instagram. This is just this is Joseph and Prima. I think they're unpacking some work. This might be during the bamboo installation. And just, there's this, you just have to have fun while you're doing it. Like there could be some high stress moments when you are unpacking work, when you have to like, you have to be delicate. You have to like just really like work together and coordinate. But there's opportunities to have like just some fun and just to make it a lighter experience.
And this is you and Tim Washington.
Yeah, this is so Tim Washington. I mean, this exhibition was really amazing to work on. I think this happened in 2013. And Tim Washington, he hadn't had a solo exhibition in LA in a very long time, if at all, at that moment and at that time. And this was essentially like a retrospective of his work. And Tim Washington was someone who, he's a very significant figure in LA art history. But at that time was maybe just a little unsung, just kind of, and we were really excited to put together this kind of retrospective of his work, or a retrospective survey. I'm not sure which word to use. Actually, it was more so a survey probably. But part of one of the problems we ran into when trying to do this exhibition was that there wasn't really like literature out in the world about Tim Washington, and so sadly we didn't have a budget to create a catalog for this exhibition, which really would have been just a gift, honestly. But we were able to put together kind of like a gallery takeaway, and it was like a kind of like a long format brochure that included images. But I spent a lot of time with Tim, just interviewing him and talking to him about his history and his practice, just to kind of create a narrative, And so we had this brochure that existed that essentially we had to like kind of like write a history for him, and kind of create like not create, but just kind of like it was important that there was some kind of documentation about Tim's history at that point. And I hope maybe we can reprint those. I mean, I don't know, because like you must have the files, but I feel like that would be a really great idea, honestly.
Yeah, one of the things that the museum has a new website, a relatively new website at this point, and it's a slow process, but we have been, we're able to share more past info from exhibitions. And so now, like on artist exhibition pages, there's like installation images, and if in the rare cases when we've been able to produce some sort of printed material, like the gallery guides such as Tim had, or catalogs, those are now accessible up on the website, so people can at least download them and have access to them. So if anyone is interested, you would be able to find that gallery guide for Tim on the website now. But you're right, as a small institution, with when it is pretty rare where we can do printed publications, that kind of once the show goes down, in many ways, a lot of that information does get lost. So I think that's probably an ongoing struggle almost for any institution, but especially when you can't make catalogs or other types of reservoirs for that information to live on.
Yeah. But Tim, just such a great person, and he's you know, got a fantastic practice, a fantastic studio. It's always a joy to see him.
Yeah, and you know, it's just another shot of Tim. Actually, that this image, I don't think this piece wasn't ready. I believe we did not exhibit this piece in our show, but
this was exhibited at CAM, I believe.
Yeah, like a few years ago, and also just, you know, Tim's takes him years and years in certain cases to construct pieces, and that it was really nice that he could then have that solo show at CAM many years later and exhibit that piece. This is some uncrating of work.
Yeah, and again, this is also where like just really relying on our preparators who have like really, you know, deep knowledge of how to properly pack and unpack works of art. And this is just kind of here to, just as an example. I mean, a lot of times we would take video and photographs of how packaging was done so that we would then remember how to repack works when we needed to ship them back. Sometimes there was, you know, sometimes packaging was really straightforward, but sometimes it's not, and you just need a record to just remember how to do it. Otherwise, things can get damaged.
And this is from that same exhibit. It was our first clay biennial that these shows are from.
Right.
I'm sorry, these images are from.
Yes, and this was a very heavy work that was being exhibited in the front window, and there was just no way that we were going to be able to lift that work. And so we had to get a special, we had to rent special equipment, this apparatus called a gantry, which again, Joe advised us on because I didn't know what that was. And so being able to get his expertise on how to move a sculpture of this size was really, really helpful. And so this apparatus was really, really helpful. Is the only reason we were able to move that piece from its crate into its location.
Yeah. And also shout out Andreas. That's him there in the middle of the photo, helping. He co-curated the exhibition and then also became co-preparator as well, as often is the case. Oh yeah.
This is just like a really this is a kind of funny story, kind of like not so funny story, but essentially this installation is basically like a bamboo installation made from gigantic bamboo that was constructed inside of the museum in the third floor gallery, you know, it took quite a long time to put it together, and then we got word that there was maybe some kind of like a bug that was in it or something.
It was potentially, yeah, and we didn't want anything to happen to the other works.
We didn't want to endanger the other works, and so after like, you know, after a few days of this work, like having been installed and, you know, completed this massive task in the gallery, the preparators had to take it all apart and then they had to rebuild it in the courtyard. And this is them at the end of it, just inside of it, and just like happy that they finished. And they did a fantastic job because they had because they figured out exactly how to do it. It didn't take them as long to install it in the courtyard once when they had to redo it. So you know, thankfully it didn't take as long as it had when they first did it, but it was still just, you know, just one of those things, just one of those unforeseen circumstances that comes up that you will not be able to predict, but then you just have to like roll with it and move along. And they were just like amazing and so accommodating to be able to do that.
Yeah, because the first time also the artist was there on site, but then it was really, well, all four of them, but I think Joseph and Prima in particular really led the kind of deinstallation and reinstallation of the piece, and yeah, did an incredible job on a very complex installation.
This was, so, you know, prior to 2012, I believe, we didn't really have, so other museums, larger museums, and they would do normally press previews of exhibitions that they were going to be opening. Like it would basically be, the press preview would happen before the exhibition was open to the public. We did not have that luxury because we were always installing right up to the opening, and so we ended up, you know, I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity as the communications manager at the museum to be part of a SoCal-wide group of museum communications professionals who we would meet quarterly, and just they were such a wealth of information. It was like SoCal museums just working together to help one another out, so that there would just be just greater attendance at museums, and just like a greater, just, you know, a greater respect for museums just all around. And the concept of Free Museum Day, which happens in January every year, except right now, came out of that group, SoCal Museums. And so I'm really grateful to have had just access to all those professionals, because I was advised on how we can possibly move forward with some kind of like a press specific event, you know. And so this was our first press preview. You know, just really, like, it was very well attended. I was really happy and really surprised. But as things started moving along, we realized that it was probably going to be, as a small museum, like it was probably more to our benefit to try to have more like intimate sort of gatherings for press. And so we started hosting basically the week after the opening, like a press luncheon for anybody who would RSVP, and we would provide lunch, and we would tour them through the galleries, and then just all sit down and have a conversation about the exhibitions. Curators and or artists would also be available during these press luncheons, and it was just a really, really great way to establish just more intimate relationships with members of the press. And we really focused mostly on local press. Just, you know, international press is great, national press is great, but it was really important for us to get local coverage, because we wanted folks from LA to come to the museum and to establish a relationship with the museum. And so that's kind of like where I kind of like placed more importance.
Yeah, and I think it was probably really around that time too that I think the recognition of the museum, and again being able to sort of garner press and other kinds of attention, I think there was a definite correlation between the development of your work there with the press, and then what did happen. And the museum continues to benefit from those relationships. I think in the interest of time, I may just kind of briefly scroll through these images, if that's okay, Sasha. Just,
yeah, please.
Everybody kind of working together.
Yes.
That's like the whole staff moving some stuff in the shop. And then this was Sasha's image from her desk at the time that she worked at the museum too.
Items from my desk, yeah. Like we had an item that came from like one of like our like folk art sales. We had a little notebook from the gift shop downstairs, a flower sculpture that our graphic designer at the time, Michelle, made for me, a little rose painting that Karina, who used to work in the shop, also made for me, a little hand that I think Andres gave to me. So it was just like little gifts acquired during my time there.
That's very cool. All right, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to stop sharing images for some time. Oh, and also I wanted to mention, or we wanted to give a shout out. One of our preparators who you've seen in some of those images, Joseph Baca, is here. So we just want to say hi to Joseph and thank you so much for joining in. Sasha, can you maybe talk about, in your time at the museum, how you feel the museum changed during those times, and how maybe have there been specific ways that some of these past exhibitions really influenced those changes?
Yeah, I think so. When I came on board to the museum, we had a different executive director who had more her focus had been more on the museum being a space for creating cultural understanding between various groups of people, and that was a wonderful mission. But like once Suzanne came on board, and once we started actually like talking about the kind of artists that we wanted to work with, we just more and more we were seeing that our focus seemed to be more so on artists who were working with objects like where like the materiality of their artwork was really like important, the way they worked with materials, the way they had just like a very deep sort of understanding of like of process, of tangibility, and it was really interesting just because I think like a lot of us at the museum at the time were really struggling with like, what does craft mean? What does folk art mean? What does it mean to be craft and folk art museum? And we were always trying to figure out like how these artists that we were working with, like how do they tie into that? And I think like ultimately what we were able to make happen in the last 10 years was we were really interested in exploring the handmade, and we were really interested in exploring how that handmade provided social context, political context to just like the moments of our, like just to everything that was like important to our contemporary moment. And I think that I'm like now I'm kind of like feeling like, okay, what is craft, you know? And like it's just so hard, you know, like in all these years, like we were always trying to land on like some kind of a definition of like, what is craft? What does it mean to be this museum and to show these artists? And there was the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. They had a page on their website once upon a time that essentially said, what is craft? And a lot of cultural figures from the field of craft weighed in and just kind of gave their own sort of definition of craft. And something that really, really stuck with me is artist Edmund de Waal's quote, sort of it just really like sat with me, and just like it still sits with me, like it's what I feel like I refer to. But Edmund de Waal's quote about craft was, "Craft is a starting place, a set of possibilities. It avoids absolutes, certainties over robust definitions, solace. It offers places, interstices where objects and people meet. It is unstable, contingent. It is about experience. It is about desire. It can be beautiful." And to me, it's just like, that just encompasses it, you know? It's like, in a way, it's definitionless, you know? It's indefinable, but it's something that is like, it changes. It's something that doesn't have to be stagnant or static. And in a way, I feel like the way the exhibitions, like particularly our solo presentations over the last 10 years, the way that they kind of progressed really fall into that sort of, into just that broad sort of, like, I guess definition, if we want to say it's a definition. But yeah, like I just think, yeah, I think that's kind of it. I don't know, like, does that answer? what the question was.
Oh, I think it does. Well, it seems like a lot of our discussions over the years too, revolving around craft, was not only what we as a staff or internally was thinking, but just the interactions that you would have with the public and what their definitions of craft were. And I think in many ways craft can be thought of in a very narrow manner or only as one thing, when really it is so multiple, and it has within it there is sort of what's termed studio craft. You have connections to community-based craft practices that have evolved over thousands of years. Even the kind of DIY sort of people at home making, and how they can kind of intersect in all these different ways. And I think that that's something that I know I personally, just my definitions of craft have expanded so much, are really realizing that it manifests in a lot of different ways, and it can be a lot of different things, and those things are always crossing one another as well in artist work. So no, I think that is a really beautiful quote from DeWall that you picked. And I also think that it really it continues to influence the work that we do, and really even in the context of like exhibitions, like what do you show or what don't you show? Because we do tend to focus on what a lot of people would maybe term studio craft, but are there other ways to even broaden that within the work that the museum does? And with that, and now you're working at Metro, this huge, and I think Metro is a county institution, if I'm remembering, government institution. How has working at a smaller institution like Craft Contemporary, now you're at this very large organization, like what do you feel are the ways that smaller places make contributions maybe to the larger community versus larger institutions?
I mean, it's very different because, at the museum, it was, we're very nimble, like because we were small, because we were in the same office space, just kind of discussing things with one another. There were no cubicles, there weren't departments, we were just all kind of a conglomerate working together. And we were able to make things happen. It's like, okay, we've discussed at the staff meeting that we want to make this happen, so we're just going to try to make this happen. It's like a couple brains come together, and it's just like, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is our strategy. Working in a larger place, which is a county institution, there's more protocols in place, obviously, because it is a public. It's publicly funded, so understandable that there's just more protocols. There's just a bit more bureaucracy. There's you just can't do things as quickly and as nimbly as you could at a smaller institution. But I feel like in a way, I think like what makes I think like if I take my example in particular, like working at a small institution was really just valuable for me in terms of like making like just on the ground relationships happen. Like I have like so many relationships that have come out of my time at the museum. These are relationships that have also carried over into Metro. For instance, I worked with Shireen Girgis on her exhibition at the museum, and I am currently working with Shireen Girgis again for her Metro project. She is one of the Metro commissioned artists, and it's I think, to me, that's really like the most valuable thing, like just the it's the intimacy that a small institution kind of affords to both like the people who are like working there, the people you are working with. There's just it's a different sort of like space for collaboration. It's a different sort of space for becoming part of a community, you know. There aren't as many like barriers in a way, or like and that's not to say that like I'm not able to like establish relationships through my work at Metro. Absolutely I am, but it's just, it's a little different. It's a little different when you have also, like, you know, projects at Metro have very, very long timelines, you know, like years long. Whereas at the museum, we were working on much shorter timelines to make exhibitions happen, to make programs happen, and you just had to, like, you know, dive in. You had to dive right into these relationships. You had to dive right into these collaborations. And I think that ultimately is it just helps strengthen the feeling of community that then like comes up around an institution, and the people who make up the institution, whether it's the preparators who come in every 3 months, the artists you're working with for, you know, however long, the curators you're collaborating with. It's I think that's really like what I value from my small institution experience.
And Sasha, where would you like to see craft contemporary sort of evolve in the coming years, or if you have particular hopes, dreams, wishes? You know, we're in this period of not only having these changes that we referenced over the last 10 years, but of course, you know, our museum, like all museums, have been closed over this last year too. And there's been a real real kind of it's been going on, but this conversation about what museums should really be and offer moving forward. Did you have any thoughts on how you'd like to see craft contemporary function in the future?
I mean, I would love for craft contemporary to survive. I know this is a really hard time, you know, like especially for a small institution, it's a really hard time. I mean, I think this institution is really important. Like, it's been like a space where folks who have not had museum exhibitions before can have their first exhibition, which is really just, we need a place like that, you know. I think the museum has just been on the right track, honestly, for the last 10 years. I think it's been you know, a space for emerging artists. It's been a space for established artists to get, I mean, like Betty Saar didn't have a solo exhibition like for a while, and then we were able to, you know, work with her, you know, very closely to create something. I think just like to continue working with the artists who just really merit a space, you know. And gosh, it's so hard to say. Like, I haven't really thought about like the arc of the museum, you know, but right, I mean, like at this very present moment, like I just like would really like for this, I would like for the space to like just to continue existing. And, you know, like knowing very intimately like how, you know, smaller museums, smaller institutions are under-resourced, you know, we also get limited. You know, there was a lot of limits also as far as like who can we work with, you know, like sometimes it was harder to work with like artists, international artists, or artists who live in New York or something like that, you know, like a lot of times, I mean, it's just, I think just coming out of everything, it would be really nice, like if one day, like there's just more resources for the museum, you know, just more resources, it'd be great if there was actual just like state support for the arts. Yeah. So that you know, we could continue being a space for more people than who, we are currently able to really achievably work with.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think probably everyone would wholeheartedly agree with that. And yeah, it will be, what happens in the next couple years to see how the pandemic and the larger world influences all our organizations, especially the smaller ones, which we are a part of. Well, I think that we are getting close to about 3:00. So I did want to open up and see if anyone had any questions. Sasha, really thank you so much for kind of taking us through what your work was and really how that is this really wonderful way to see all the beautiful and complex aspects of exhibition development.
I kind of want to just shout out here, like we have like Joseph, like who's joined us in also, but Dulce is like working on something, like applying those skills, those vital preparator skills to like some other real life stuff going on there. So, I mean, look at that. Just look at this brilliant person here.
Okay.
So cool.
Yeah, no, it's really awesome. Hi, Dulce, to have you on the line as well. Sasha, was there anything else that you wanted to talk about? Just anything that we didn't cover that you would like to share?
I don't think so. I feel like we really like covered it. I just wanted to make sure we were just like really shouting out like everybody who's kind of like, just who you don't see right in
Been a part
in
of
the
it
front, like, but who's really like vital.
Thanks. And also, speaking of shout outs, I wanted to say hi to Ann Weber as
Hi,
well,
Ann.
who I see is on the Zoom. So
and
Kathy Weiss as well. Kathy has exhibited at the museum too over the years. So it's nice to see, if not familiar faces, familiar names on the Zoom. And again, this program was kind of a foundation, a sort of forward to one of our upcoming shows, which again is titled Making Time. Anne is one of the artists in that exhibition. So over the coming months, we'll be continuing to develop other related programs, also be able to bring the artists in as well to speak about their work. So Sasha, thank you so much for taking the time to be here, and also just for going back through your own archives and sharing all of those really fun photos with us. I know I had a great time looking back and remembering about these experiences. And to all of you who joined us today, again, thanks so much for spending part of your afternoon with us. We don't have a set opening date, both the sort of virtual opening as well as the physical opening, which fingers crossed, the county and city will be able to do that relatively soon, as hopefully COVID rates continue to decrease and things start to open back up. But please just stay with us on our e-blast and social media, and we'll keep everybody posted about all of the upcoming happenings. And it is our hope that we will be able to see some of you in person, hopefully sooner rather than later. So again, thanks so much, everyone. Sasha, thank you so much, and not only for being here today, but for all the amazing work that you did over your years at the museum, and really that evolution that's happened. You're a really huge part of how the museum has been able to evolve, and I think become a better and better institution, and hopefully we'll continue to progress in that direction as well.
I think there's like one more thing I'd like to add, actually,
Sure.
just about the small institution, is that, being part of like a small team, like it's amazing, like how much if I had worked at a larger museum, I probably wouldn't have been been able to help shape the vision and direction of the place as much as I've been able to at the museum, that the way that I did, and it's just been that is such a valuable experience, I think, for the people working at the museum, to be able to be, so involved in helping shape a place, beyond just a directive that comes from some place up top, we were all the directive, and that was just, it's just, there's nothing like it. It's so empowering. And I think that's that is something that I feel like is just really valuable about coming out of a small institution, is just feeling empowered.